Our next guest speaker is Codrin Scutaru, Chief Executive Officer at Public Affairs Solutions, a leading government relations agency in Romania. We are very thankful to the Public Affairs Solutions to being our local sponsor from Romania. Codrin Scutaru served as Managing Director of 𝗦𝗂𝗯𝗹𝗶 Romania since 2018. Then he was involved in the management buyout, and as of January 2020, he set up Public Affairs Solutions, where he is now serving as Chief Executive Officer. And now it's a wholly owned Romanian company. So, Codrin, welcome to the GR Forum.
Thank you very much, Vasil. Great being with you today, and great discussing again about what is not only a profession, but a way of life, being a lobbyist.
Exactly. Codrin, we know that Romanian market is quite different from that of its EU members. Neighbors. Can you tell us what are some of the peculiarities of doing government relations in your country?
Well, I think from a certain point of view, we are on a good path compared to the rest of Europe, taking into account that we seem to be like investment oasis for Europe. I think that doing public affairs in Romania, of course, is not easy because the domain kind of started in 2007. And since then, it developed every year. But I think after 14 years, the domain exactly started when we arrived here. We arrived with the American culture of public affairs, of doing government relations by bringing some major investors. And somehow, together with the other agencies that were present here, we kind of educated the market. After 14 years, I think the biggest challenge of doing public affairs in Romania is to have the appropriate approach in discussing with the authorities, to continue to follow up, to not give up on your objective, because the Balkanic culture is not always, as you well know, a dialogue culture. It's sometimes one that is more concerned on other type of bureaucracy. So basically, public servants are focused on respecting all the stages of having a document registered. This is one thing. And sometimes a delay could, because if you wait for 30 days for an answer regarding an investment, you might see that the investors are looking for other possibilities. So bureaucracy is one thing, public service behavior is another thing, and not focusing, for example, I discussed with a client of mine recently that I think also the public sector should have their KPIs. If you have a number of investors coming and you have not managed to keep them in the country, you should somehow see it as your own failure, as a public service, public direction responsible on investors.
That's a very good answer. Thank you. And I really appreciate your observation of how the government relations industry has been developing, and it's great that the American company that you were working with has helped shape it, because I think it's very important. I can definitely reflect in similar respect about Ukraine, because this industry here has been, sort of developing during the last 10, 15 years, and then you could closely observe how it was developing and how this kind of peer-to-peer education was taking place, and we as an industry were helping shape it as well and improve it and improve the skills in the industry. Now, of course, I'd like to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the COVID, and apparently it has had a big impact on Romania, but I'm more curious what are your observation of how has it impacted the government relations practices? What new what is new normal now for GR in the times of pandemic?
Well, to make a long story short, I think the new normal looks a lot like the former normal, because things somehow, people realize they need interaction. So I myself, I took brave decision and asked my team to come to the office, even though many multinational companies decided, many of my clients decided to keep their employees at home. I said, no, if we stay at home, all of us, we will not be properly prepared for what our clients need in relation with the authorities. They need answers, they need interactions. You know, when you have, sometimes one of the biggest mistakes the consultants in government relations and in other domains too are doing in relation with the authorities is that they simply consider, by sending a policy paper, by sending a point of view, you have fulfilled your duty, and the authority has the, you know, they have the ball in their yard and they have to take your opinion into consideration. Well, it's not like this. You should advocate for your opinion, and advocating for your opinion is not always possible without interaction. So basically, we focus both on mixing online interactions with normal interactions, face-to-face interactions, respecting the norms and using the masks and using all the other prevention tools. So we continued to go to authorities. We continued to ask for meetings. What happened was that the number of meetings, sometimes the authorities were closed, of course. Some of them said, we don't meet anybody. But okay, if you don't meet anybody, you have online meetings. So we obtained easier in the first part of the pandemic, so obtained easier the discussions with the responsible authorities and with the responsible politicians, with the members of parliament. In the second part of maybe lately, we somehow feel like we are back to what it was in February, March 2020, together with more online meetings. What's wrong with the online meetings is that sometimes there are too many parties in an online meeting and the point of views are not properly listened. And the possibility of, you know, not being present is high. Not being present by understanding what our clients' requests are. So, to make a long story short, mixing meetings with online meetings was one solution. Continuing was the best decision we have ever made. Continue to interact, continue to follow up. What I feel like is needed, and it's not always a rule in approaching authorities, especially in Balkanic areas like ours, in a state like Romania, who has also the Latin influence and also the Balkanic influence. And of course the NATO and pro-European influence, but it is a mix of cultures. So sometimes the answer is hard to obtain from a public body. And the biggest thing that you can do is to follow up. The necessary thing to do is to follow up. Too few agencies follow up, too few consultants, public affairs consultants follow up in a proper manner. And you open too many ways of communicating with a public body or a politician or a decision maker, and you don't always follow up. This is a mistake. When you follow up, you are halfway there. This is one thing. And another thing is strategic planning. Okay, you might have a possibility. We had clients that had discussions in the parliament with a certain committee, for example, labor committee, health committee, and things were turning against them. But actually what you need to know in this job is that the members of the committee sometimes change, and you need to build the necessary minimum of members who understand your cause. And this is perseverance, first of all.
Yeah, very good point. It's all about perseverance and communications, and I share your views on that. And there must be an interaction to make sure that you're being heard. And we also have to take into account that in today's world, we are so inundated with all this information coming at you. Therefore, we have to also, in our public affairs practice, experiment with the mechanism we use and the way we actually convey our messages. be them in a written form, in visuals, in infographics, in videos, or during a personal meeting. And usually it's a combination of all this the tools or all this kind of ways how we communicate the message that we get a result. I totally agree with you. But coming back to the lockdowns that we've had, have you seen that the needs of some of your clients have changed because of the lockdowns, and how you perhaps had to transition to your practice? You already mentioned that you still try to keep most of your team within the office to make sure that you work together as a team better. But I wonder if for any of your clients have took advantage of the pandemic to demonstrate to the government their willingness to help, and you were able to communicate that on their behalf.
Yes, indeed. For example, in the first time, there was we found a window of opportunity in the beginning of a pandemic. Some governmental bodies were ignoring the emails on a certain issue, and because people had to listen, had to focus on emails by governmental order, they started to read back our memos better. So first of all, it was an advantage from this point of view. Some of our clients needed to know how to travel, because when you handle several countries, you need to know the travel conditions. So basically, we also became travel conditions consultants. So first of all, you have to take care of your client. If a CEO, if a corporate affairs manager is traveling all around, you need to know the travel conditions and inform him or her in order for that person to be comfortable that, okay, I know my consultant is doing, my consultant is doing everything necessary to care about me and to know about my itinerary. If we're after surpassing travel conditions, we use this mix, you say, visual presentations and face-to-face advocating to present the necessity of bringing more technology. For example, clients that were focused on technology obtained an advantage in approaching authorities because authorities were focused on solutions. And we found opportunities with CSR projects, with private-public projects that were able to, helping hospitals, for example. There was a need in the beginning of pandemics, and we advise our clients, if you can manage to bring financing into solutions, into projects that are related to preventing COVID or counter fight COVID, let's put those solutions to the authorities. Let's make this let's make us a more facile path, a more simple path for authorities. This is how we acted, Vasil. First of all, we focused on two types of clients, because a government relations agency has two clients actually. The client, the corporate, which is paying you for a certain public affairs campaign, and the public body who needs to help, who needs to be involved, and you need to serve them as well in order to make the dialogue between the two bodies. So basically, we try to understand if we had a client that was hit by the crisis, by this pandemic crisis, that, for example, is in the food industry and couldn't sell anymore. We focused on saying to authorities that they need to reopen, they need to think about the measures, and they need to think about the clients now, today. They are losing money every hour. My client is losing money every hour the lockdown continues or the restraining measures continue. This is very important. And another thing is that sometimes we have, for example, a big pork producer, one of the biggest in Eastern Europe, and that was affected by swine fever. And just because COVID arrived, swine fever did not disappear. So basically, is exactly like the other disease. If you have one more virus, the other viruses did not disappear. The other problems our clients had did not disappear. So we try to make the authorities think that everybody is in this COVID drama. But our life, as it was before, needs to continue.
It's a very good point. Thanks, Codrin. Look, we got a question from the audience, so I just wanted to pick on that. The question is the following. What is the main differentiator between public affairs solutions and other Romanian public affairs firms?
I think our main differentiator is the team. We are focused on not having only a key consultant like myself, but a team of consultants that is ready, is visually able to be seen. When you want to see our team, you see a team, several members of our team, not only the founder, not only the creator or the continuator of the agency. We also included in our team former public officials that decided to go into the private area and do public affairs as a profession, understanding that this is a profession, and with respecting all the ethical and moral and legal transparency procedures that are necessary. The FCPA, everything that was part of our trainings, UK Anti-Bribery Act, and so on. We have this type of people in our team, senior experts from the Parliament, from the European Parliament, from the government, people who are on the other side and know how to receive a request from a client. We also have young people that worked in the government as advisors, or worked in the Parliament as advisors, and mixed the experience with private sector experience, understanding also the corporate regulations, understanding how our client is organized. So basically, our team of experts, compared to other teams, are able to provide a full range of services with not only a superstar, but a bunch of stars understanding both private sector and public sector. This mix, which is the art in public affairs, from my perspective, is to have this mix of public and private sector understanding. And second of all, I think another differentiator is that we continued to believe in interaction during pandemics and anyway, because we continue to believe in advocating for the cause of our clients. And with the puzzle of meetings, from one meeting you make a follow-up, from the other meeting you make another follow-up. You are building consequences. You are building reactions to what you need to continue in a public affairs campaign. So I think what is the key differentiator is our attitude that public affairs industry is not a boutique industry, but rather an important industry, because every big company needs to have the interaction with the authorities, with the political framework, and understanding the political framework made by a professional. We are helping the CEOs and the corporate affairs managers approaching the decision makers and creating public affairs campaigns and gaining time and gaining results made by professionals. A big mistake is when you try to do everything by yourself. For example, today I visited a tailor for my suit. A tailor is a professional. It's like we are tailor-made professionals in public affairs. You can buy a suit from a mall. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You don't look the same.
Yeah, it's thanks a lot. It's a very good metaphor that you made in comparison to the tailor, because indeed you can buy a ready-made suit, but it's going to be different from what you can get from tailor-made. And I really appreciate your comments on mentioning the FCPA and UK anti-bribery law, because it's very important for our profession, especially at the times when there are so many stereotypes about lobbying professionals, so to say. And for all of us, it's very important to maintain a high moral and ethical standards in what we do in our occupation, to make sure that we are transparent, and therefore our clients shouldn't be concerned about their compliance which they have. So that's a very good point, and we all are adhering to this in the industry and should be promoting it. So that's a good point. Look, and also I liked what you said about about your team. So you have a combination of people who are formerly senior level officials. Then you have people who have very good understanding of business, and it's often the combination of this expertise which provides and adds value to your clients. Also, I just wanted to talk to you more about the way specifically how we work. We had a very good discussion yesterday with one of the speakers where he sort of talked more, because in the past a government relations professional, public affairs professional was the one who has contacts. But contacts is only a very small part of our job today, right? Because in a way it became easier to gain access to people, but at the same time it's much more than that, right? And we talked a lot about your intelligence capabilities, about research, about the knowledge how to run campaigns, which often comes to policy, PR, and understanding how communications work, and all this kind of elements. What's your reflection on this?
Yes, regarding contacts, when I started to work in this domain, somebody told me that you have your contacts from your previous experience, no matter what your experience was, public or private. You have a list of mobile numbers, and you just consume the list. It's not like this from my perspective. You have to know how to fish. You have to know how to create and nurture contacts. This is the job of a lobbyist, of a government relations professional, of a public affairs professional, to understand. This is what my team is learning, and we are learning together, to understand how to nurture contacts. Practically, the public servant, the public official, or the politician, or the advisor of the politician who is contacted by a lobbyist should somehow feel better after discussing with you, or not trying to avoid you. Feel better because you are an expert in public law. You are an expert in institutional sociology. You are an expert in parliamentary procedures. You are an expert in what investors want. You are an expert in developing projects from other developed part of the world. So you bring an added value as a lobbyist. You are not somebody who is just pushing for an answer for starting a plant somewhere in the world. Where you're not just a regulatory affairs, person, especially in the pharma sector, for example, who is just trying to keep up with the process. Sometimes in Romania, everything is delayed, so only asking for the normal timeline is the public affairs campaign sometimes. But you should see yourself as a person who can bring a value to the person who is talking to from the public, from the other side.
Yeah, good one, Codrin. Do you have clients with a regional GR mandate, by the way? If yes, how did your cross-border activities change at the times of crisis? And what countries do you usually cover? Because this Balkan region is very diverse and very different. And where would you see yourself and in terms of a regional kind of scope that you can get?
Well, we started some operations also. Yes, we have some clients that are operating on several clients. So basically, I think in the last period, things moved a little bit, but by not looking only to Brussels operations, but also looking to Eastern European, Central Europe operations more. So we have also started actions in Czech Republic and Slovak Republic and Bulgaria. We are planning to do things in Poland, in Hungary. Romania and Poland, I think we have a different approach in Europe. Even though Romania has some sort of a step back as a development, as a starting point, we have a very good speed in developing. If you're looking at our economic increase rate, and we have a different economic policy approach. So looking back at the clients and the regional approaches, we are looking at the challenges made by the travel conditions, because we're still in pandemics. Let's not forget this. And from the other point of view, are looking to create contacts regional and in contacts in other countries based on results that we had in Romania already. So if we have a good case made in Romania, we discuss, for example, with representative of a certain party made from the European Popular Party group, we are discussing with colleagues of politicians from this party group who had people who had good interactions with us and somehow understood us after a good result. And we can give this example and moving on. Of course, it's easier for everybody, and we are using every time the local people, because a Romanian will always understand Romania better, a Czech Republic citizen will understand the Czech Republic better, and so on. And Hungarian too will understand Hungary better. So we are following the same model, understanding the framework and try to do what worked, okay, but adapting to that country, to that situation.
Codrin, that was excellent. I really appreciate this engaging discussion we had. Thanks a lot for supporting us. We hope to have this event on an annual basis. And it was great having you with us. Have a great Friday and a great weekend ahead of you.
Thank you very much. It was a big honor for me too, and it was quite refreshing, this discussion.